Hello and welcome to Thank You for Not Smoking, the podcast that I, Terry Gross, do with my friend
Ira Glass.
We're here to talk about politics, culture, leftism, and whatever else we kind of feel like. Today's question is, what role do white people play in Black Lives Matter?
Wow, can't fucking go for the easy ones, can you? Jesus Christ.
We're not here for the easy questions.
Can't we be once? Just one time?
Okay, fine. You sure? You want to go real easy? Okay. Should the SRA be a thing?
Yes, fuck you.
Done. See? Easy question. Shit, we still have a whole hour left
God
of the podcast.
Damn it, you're right. Okay, fucking white people and Black Lives Matter, Jesus, that's a...
Bit of a touchy subject?
It's like...
We should iterate real quick for anyone listening. We are two white people.
Yeah, whiter than fucking sour cream here.
Yeah.
If you shine a light at me, it will reflect at near perfect specularity. I could, in fact, be substituted for one of those umbrella things that photographers use to diffuse light. You think I'm joking, but I've tested this.
No, I believe you. I believe you. You've got a unique paleness to yourself.
Thank you. I'm very proud of my pallor.
It comes from just never being in the sun.
Yeah, my maggot-like.
Go to Japan, you'll be a superstar.
Oh God, no, thank you. I know what happens to Japanese superstars. Wow, that's a topic for another time, though.
That's a whole other topic. Let's cover that some other episode. Right now, let's focus in on what's happened. So, a little bit of context real quick. We're both from Fairbanks, Alaska, and we recently had a protest of sorts up here, in which the issue did come up. What role do white people play in representing Black Lives Matter? And what roles can they play? And at what point do you stop trying to advocate for change or cause? And who's the final arbiter on whether or not you...
This is one of those complicated questions where I want to simultaneously be both, like, every white person should be involved in Black Lives Matter, and also, like, Black Lives Matter is discomfortingly liberal for me. So, like...
You're just too much of a leftist.
I know, it's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Don't get me wrong, I'm also very far to the left, but I'm also all for joining in on the movements that are there to follow the leftist ideology.
They're my allies, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's just that I'd be more comfortable with them if there was more conscious critique of the racial dimensions of capital.
I can see that. I can get you on that one. And to be fair, there are leftists who are actually trying to do that.
True.
Who are people of color on you.
And,
that is a thread going through the society. It's just moving slowly, and in mainstream, it's easier to hold up the signs and fight against the specific things as it's starting. And once you start getting changes going and momentum going from that, such as we're seeing right now in Minneapolis.
Another thing that bothers me is it's not Black Lives Matter's fault at all. It's largely the fault of the mass media, but the entire conversation about police brutality and police violence is now centered entirely around black people.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like centering the entire discussion around the horrors of World War II around Jews.
Yeah, which creates the problem of excluding the others and making it harder for the other people who are being persecuted to make their voices heard over it. If they do make their voices heard over it, it's really easy to have them get accusations of you're trying to co-opt a move yourself on your own idea. It's
especially irritating to me right now because it's fucking June.
Yep. Welcome to Wrath Month.
Yeah, fucking Queer Wrath Month, guys. That's no more pride, just wrath.
Just wrath. It's just wrath. The problem is, right now, the best thing we have in the mainstream of thought, not just media, mainstream thought, is for fuck cops and ACAB concepts, is Black Lives Matter as a slogan. Hold up a sign, and that means the same thing. Fuck the police. They need to be reformed or abolished because this is unacceptable. Fuck the state and the government in a certain extent because this has also been such a constant in our society. The easy way to get across that you have those concepts and ideas for the most part is Black Lives Matter, and it's the best way to also get on the map in whatever place you're at as holding that up because it will automatically get more attention than you just being on the street corner holding up a sign that says fuck fascists or ACAB. More people will engage with they're holding a Black Lives Matter sign rather than an ACAB sign.
Yeah, I know.
But at some point,
like
a white person holding that sign, and this is something I've personally...
A white person holding that sign by themselves?
Yeah, all surrounded by other white people even.
Yeah, that's a bad look.
The optics on that don't go great. But on the other hand,
at best you will be accused of preempting or co-opting the movement. But more likely you'll probably be accused of being an outside agitator.
Yeah.
Because, black people are too stupid to actually advocate for themselves.
God.
without being prompted by white people.
Here's another problem, and this is something we actually experienced over this last week at the protest. It was predominantly white people and a couple of indigenous people there, but there were very few black people. And one of the major reasons for that in Fairbanks, Alaska, is there's not a whole lot of black people in this city.
There's a very small black population. The majority of them are military, and they're very likely to show up to actions like that.
Yeah. It's an issue.
I don't.
And the one or two people. So we had basically had two people. One was an older black lady, organizer in the community. She's very deep into children a lot, does a lot of work, great work. And she was half supportive of it, but she was clearly on the edge and nervous about us holding signs and being there. And then we had one other person show up who, and I'm going to say this publicly, I don't give a shit. We have the personal approval, not the official approval of the NAACP, but the personal approval of the president of the Fairbanks chapter up here to be there and holding signs. So we had a bit of a dichotomy between two members of the, black community in Fairbanks. And the way this protest ended and fell apart was the first black lady showed up and told us all to pack it up and stop representing Black Lives Matter because she felt, because she was insistent that it would be targeting black people, cause more discrimination of black people community, and they would be targeted because we were holding up these signs. And so she was very agitatedly insistent upon us putting them away and leaving. And if we did decide to stay, that we can't use the Black Lives Matter signs. And that gets on my nerves, primarily because I'm an anarchist communist. For me, a lot of it's community, collectivism, no gods, no leaders concepts here. And the idea that someone can come in and dictate to people who are involved in a mass movement that is about so much more than just Black Lives Matter, that, as stated on the tin, that they could come in and there's no recourse for me to be able to say, actually, no, I feel passionate enough about this, about police brutality and such, that I want to stay here holding this damn sign. I don't win that optics fight against her, against the member of the black community telling me to put my sign away. There's no winning in that. Yeah,
it's, once again, that's a case of either co-opting the movement or being an outside agitator.
Yeah.
With also the possible outcome of, maybe she's right, maybe, that would spur further crimes against black people in our community.
Despite the fact that, Alaska's already the second worst state for police violence against black people in the United States. Yes, that is an accurate statistic. Feel free to look it up. As insane as that sounds. But on the other hand, can you co-opt a mass anti-police brutality movement? At what point, because like we said earlier, it's not just about police brutality upon black people. That's the starting point, and that's the tag, and that's where the hashtag and tagline comes from. But that's not all it is, and we're seeing it especially now in the Lower 48 with the most recent round of protests and riots. They're arguing this movement has turned into so much more than just saying police reform or accountability for the police and their racist actions, turned into, just in general, ACAB leftist ideology of abolish the police.
Yeah.
Seek other options than policing in general. And that's a thing that affects everybody. And police brutality is an issue for everybody.
I mean, for fuck's sake, in 2018, cops killed more people than mass shooters did.
Yeah.
Which, fucking... The liberal argument, of course, to that would be, well, I'm sure that some of those people deserved it, but, come on, guys. Seriously? If a cop shoots and kills a person, it's because they were pursuing them before they even got a fucking trial, and I don't care whether or not they actually committed a crime. That's extrajudicial execution.
And we're already on the stance, I'm pretty sure, of against the death penalty in the first place.
Yeah, I mean...
after all the criminal cults and crimes, we're still saying there's still no excuse to kill somebody. They're doing this without the trials.
There's some people for whom I would be very, very tempted to break that rule, but that's just my personal vicious nature.
Nah, you just put them inside of a tank and drop them in the middle. Just let them live at the bottom of the ocean in that tank. It's better than a death penalty, right?
I'd rather kill them than put them in solitary for the rest of their lives.
I didn't say solitary. They all go in the tank together.
Oh, okay. That's fine, then.
We toss all the terrible people into the tank together at the bottom of the ocean.
Better idea. Let's just turn fucking New Mexico into Coventry.
I feel like the natives are going to have an issue with that.
Yeah, good point.
They would. I feel like there's better things we could do with that state than turn it into a prison colony.
Look, I just don't think anyone should really live there. I know that they like it there, but fuck's sake,
it's New Mexico.
It's New Mexico.
Get out of there. What are you doing there?
It's
there's better places to live. Go live there.
Like fucking Antarctica, frankly.
At least then you have penguins.
Well, I guess we've pissed off our one segment of a potential audience.
Oh no, not the New Mexicans. How would we live without them? As if anyone in New Mexico exists.
I've never met anyone from New Mexico, have you?
I've never been to New Mexico. I've seen no physical evidence of their existence. Fuck.
So we're agreed then, New Mexico and Delaware don't exist.
New Mexico and Delaware absolutely do not exist.
Yeah, okay.
A region of Maryland exists where Delaware says it is, but it is in fact actually just a military black site. and has been since the founding of the nation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's one of those deep state conspiracies he's there for.
Yeah, just like the birds.
Just like the birds, which are not real.
Yeah, Reagan killed them all.
Yeah, Reagan killed them and replaced them all with drones.
Yep. Oh, man. We're gonna get into some QAnon shit now, huh?
Oh, God. How far down that rabbit hole do we want to go?
We don't.
How many watch lists do we want to try to end up on?
We really don't.
No. We talk about the weird tendency of the right to create conspiracy theories explaining why they're winning? Conspiracy theories are made by the disenfranchised.
I see that someone listened to fucking Chapo Trap House the other day.
No, actually. I listened to Some More News by Cody Johnston.
Oh, okay.
He's covered it in his video about QAnon. The main confusion on his part was, of course, conspiracy theories are crafted by people who are losing to explain why they shouldn't be losing. The right is, in all respects, as far as power goes in this country, have the power and are winning.
Yes, but you see, the thing is, when you say the right, we're talking about two very different groups. You've got the mass support of the right, and then you've got the leaders of the right. The leaders of the right are winning, but because they're winning, everyone else loses.
Including the other rightists.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea. There's also the concept that their entire ideology is built upon...
It's almost like that's just the nature of hierarchy or something.
There's also the problem that their entire ideology is based on victimhood, and if they're winning, they're not victims of systematic oppression and problems. Their whole arguments against the left 80% of the time is literally, I'm being victimized by these people. These people are oppressing my free speech. If they're at the top of the hierarchy as an ideology, they can't play their main card in recruitment, which is we're all victims of these terrible other people.
I mean, this is the classic fascist thing of the enemy is both too weak and too strong.
Fair.
The Jews are both inferior subhumans and also secretly running the world.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's true. And I think it's neat to see QAnon reframed in that context of it's literally just the fascist conspiracy theory again.
Yeah, except in this case, it's the deep state instead of the Jews.
I mean, yeah.
Which,
to be fair,
to be fair, I'm sure that many of them literally just mean the Jews when they say the deep state, but whatever.
I mean, let's go back again to Germany. The deep state, the Jews were also blamed for the deep state. That Hitler purged the deep state Jews in the first place.
He drained the swamp, so to speak.
Yes, he did such a good job of that. So when's our night of long knives happening?
Oh, God.
I'm still rooting for military coup. Against Trump, though, luckily, not for.
I would prefer not to.
I mean, there's pretty good systems built up for that exact thing to happen.
I would prefer almost anything but that, frankly.
I mean, to be fair, in the concept of a military coup in the U.S., and I've annoyingly enough spent entirely too much time researching exactly what happens in the case of different types of coups against the President of the United States. Hi, watch list. In the concept of a military coup legally, and honestly, I would expect most of the military commanders who are trying to do this coup, the concept is you remove the president from power militarily. You have, basically they are activating their right to do that, and then instating the next person in line, is basically how that goes according to the Constitution. It's basically it gives the Joint Chiefs power to remove the president from power if they all agree that he is no longer mentally sound for it, and pending a review by a psychologist, which Trump would fail, because he's never passed a physical or psychological exam in his life. That's why he's never released any of the results of them in the last 5 years.
That's why he has a doctor's note.
Yes. It's amazing how many psychiatrists literally came out. This is highly illegal according to their practices, and came out and literally said in public, I have analyzed him and he is not mentally sound. This is highly illegal for me to be doing in my field, to just be doing this.
Yeah.
But this is too dangerous to not do. I'm highly suspecting that he is mentally unsound. Needs to be dealt with. And then nothing happened anymore.
Yeah.
Military Joint Chiefs could totally remove him from power and put in the next guy.
Yeah.
I mean, admittedly, the next guy is Pence, but we could solve that here.
The problem is, from a political science perspective, is that currently we have a norm of military non-intervention in civilian government.
Yeah.
Or at least open non-intervention.
Open.
One of the things about norms in political systems is it's a little bit like Pandora's box. You can open the box, and maybe you could put some of the stuff back in, but now everybody knows what's in the box, and that there are basically no consequences for opening them.
Hey, you know what that analogy takes us back to? Minneapolis.
Oh shit, yeah.
Let's talk
That's
about what
a
happened in
Pandora's box right there.
Minneapolis, no veto city council. For anyone who hasn't heard, Minneapolis' city council has decreed in a no veto possible manner that they are going to disband the police force in their city and replace it with other systems.
God knows what it'll look like, but at least
they have also stated that it plans to be a community-led thing, more community active.
the norm of police indispensability may be broken irrevocably at this point.
Yes, that's a hell of a Pandora's box.
Yeah,
because we don't know what's coming out.
I mean, similar stuff has happened in the past, not quite to the scale of like a city council saying we're just going to get rid of the police. So I'm only cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, it could still just not happen theoretically.
Yeah,
the city council members get phased out before they can really get into that train rolling, because this is going to be a long process. It's not snap your fingers. Next week there are no more cops in fucking Minneapolis. It is very much over the next 5 years you're going to see the phasing out of the police force.
Yeah, and
in favor of other trainings and all the others.
But even
potential systems.
All
the voting has
Yeah.
I mean, in Fairbanks, they said 2 city council seats go up every year.
Yeah. Hopefully, what with incumbency bias and all.
And massive support from the fairly actively now. To be fair, they are stressing in majority of these protests voting as well as another step to maintain the drive.
Yeah.
They are not abandoning the concept of voting for, immediate action, push now, riot until we get what we want. They are also stressing to everyone who shows up to these protests, go vote. They are having voter registration people at protests to register people to vote.
It is more viscerally satisfying to go out and just make a thing happen, but generally not as sustainable long term.
No. Once you've broken open that box lid, it's hard to put the concept back in, and it is pretty impressive that in the space of a week we have gone from abolishment of the police being a radical fringe idea to something that a city has officially said they're going to.
Yeah, which, like I said, cautiously optimistic.
If nothing else, it'll at least the conversation way to the fucking left when it comes to this.
Though, frankly, if I was the Minneapolis City Council, I wouldn't stop with just disbanding the police. I would promise to set up a Truth and Reconciliation Council.
I need you to explain that phrase concept.
Truth and Reconciliation Council, or Commission, is essentially like a quasi-judicial body, tribunal type thing, where victims of certain types of crimes can come forward, name their oppressors, and the oppressors themselves can have like a day in court and try to explain their actions. It's met with, it's a community-based restorative justice approach to resolving long-term issues within communities. It's met with mixed success in South Africa and the former Yugoslavia, and it's like the UN's favored way of resolving civil conflicts.
Right. I mean, that kind of sounds like something they could very easily institute.
Yeah.
It doesn't, for that, the city council has literally just announced the intent to disband the police, but they have not started to announce the next steps of what will be taking their places yet. That's all still very much up in the air. That's still part of the massive conversation of next. So it kind of sounds like we just need to make sure that hat gets thrown into the ring as as well.
The thing is that there's no real legal framework for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission within the United States.
There's not really a legal framework for any crime and any kind of community-based self-defense outside of the police in the first place, right? So there is no legal framework for any of this.
I know.
All of it's going to be written from the ground up.
I know. It's just, there's...
Oh, God.
It's something that I want to happen, but I know that there's significant obstacles.
Oh, my God. I just realized cities don't get to make... cities get to make limited city laws.
Yeah.
For this to function, they need the governor to be approving state laws. New state laws to allow all this systems to function, which means it doesn't stop at the city. The governor has to join in on this ban. The mayor has to... Which, to be fair, the mayor, when he came out against it, the first time, got so humiliatedly booed off the stage by every single human being in the crowd that it's gonna... And Minneapolis has actually had a pretty decent record of getting rid of fuckers who don't who fuck up on that kind of scale. They actually have a decent record of voting out shitty mayors that don't do what they say they will, or don't do what he wants them to. I am also optimistic about what...
Isn't Minnesota also the only state with a unicameral legislature?
Don't know what that means, but maybe. For any of our viewers that are listeners, viewers, I guess it's
Oh, God.
I mean...
Maybe we should start having slides.
I mean, we could. That's the next step. We'll work on that. We'll look into that. While he does some Google Foo, let me remind you of our great sponsors. Fuck the Police. It's a fantastic song. Everyone should listen to it at least once or every day of their lives. And please remember, no one's ever made a song called Fuck the Fire Department. There's a reason. Oh,
it's Nebraska. Shit.
Nebraska?
Nebraska.
Nebraska has a unilateral what now?
Unicameral legislature. That is, they only have one house.
Oh.
As opposed to every other state in the Union, which has a Senate and a House of Representatives.
Well, yes, because they all copied the federal government.
Yeah, although in, various states they're called different things. Like in Virginia, the House of Burgesses for some goddamn reason.
Fucking House of Burgesses is in Virginia?
Yeah.
Fucking Christ.
Yeah. They just gotta be special, but they do predate the U.S. Constitution, so...
That's fair. Can we talk about how the mayor of D.C. has basically declared war on Trump?
Oh, lovely. Lovely. That I did not hear about this, but I could not be more pleased.
I mean, not in any tactile way, not in any, actual law way.
Because the mayor of D.C. is basically a puppet that Congress shoves their hand up.
Yeah, he has not actually devoted any actual resource change or real things to, or any real praxis towards the ideal of fuck cops. But he has renamed the street leading up to Lafayette Park in the White House Black Lives Matter. The street itself has been renamed, which is something he gets.
Nice.
And he painted giant yellow letters in the middle of the street. That was not the protesters. The city did that. The mayor did that. That say Black Lives Matter along the massive street. So the mayor of D.C. basically just told Trump to go fuck himself.
Nice.
And come out for the protesters.
Nice.
Now, admittedly, we'd like to see this followed up by, actual praxis of the police.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen, because once again...
He's a public... Congress just... Don't they make all the laws for D.C. somehow?
Yeah, D.C. has a city council, but they are essentially powerless.
Yeah. Hey, it would be really cool? D.C. statehood.
Yeah, that would be cool.
For it to actually be a real place,
probably
recognized by the United States. Alternatively, we could just get rid of the United States.
Let's not dream too big now.
Too big. Not right now. I don't know, man. Dreaming too big is what got us to Minneapolis.
I mean, this is true.
It started with the concept of, Black Lives Matter, and within a week we're at abolishing the police in a city.
Oh, man.
Imagine what 2 weeks can do. Can we just abolish the United States? Can we establish class consciousness in under 2 weeks?
I don't think so. Not in the current international legal environment.
Probably. Can we encourage the UN
We don't want the UN to invade. They would just make worse.
Would they?
Yes.
Describe worse from our current situation.
How about a fucking war?
Against Europe?
Against Russia.
Don't worry about fucking Russia.
Against Russia and...
Russia's entirely too busy trying to take over fucking all of its satellite states again, okay?
Yes.
Putin is not about to try to go to war.
We have the largest military on Earth by far, and we outspend every other country on the Security Council. But the United States has not taken significant mainland civilian casualties since the War of 1812.
9/11 is, I think, the closest we do it. As far as the
I'm not counting
concept.
acts of terrorism.
Okay, and that's a whole... I don't know, that specifically was touted in the country's zeitgeist, cultural ideal.
I'm not saying the UN would carpet bomb the United States. I'm just saying it's a tactic that they've used before.
I mean, to be fair, if anything, Russia would probably be on the side of the States.
Yeah, that's true.
Start moving against the UN from two different sides. And it'd be real interesting to see how far the UN wants to push stuff.
God damn it, Bush Sr., why couldn't you have just let Yeltsin on the fucking NATO?
No. Nah, son.
Anyway,
I mean, how far back am I? You're going farther back. God damn it, Roosevelt.
God damn it, fucking, shit, what's the...
Your League of Nations couldn't have been built by then?
Shitty fucker.
So many.
During World War... Wilson, fuck you for sending troops to fucking Russia during the Russian Civil War. You piece of shit.
God. Fuck you.
I spit on your grave.
Oh, man. Margaret Thatcher has a statue, and did you know that?
I think you mean a urinal?
I wish. Her grave is the urinal, my friend. That statue, I'd have to do some real interesting gymnastics to be able to piss on her statue. The good news is, the UK has now started pulling down statues.
So is the US.
Well, the US has been doing this for a little while now.
Yes, I know, but did you see the one where they threw it in the river?
They threw the slave owner in the river.
Yes!
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Christopher Columbus' statue is pretty fucking close to the river.
150 years too late, but whatever.
Margaret Thatcher's statue is sitting right there, primed for tearing down. Just saying, it's a mood, and nothing is better optics for a movement than literally tearing down the shitty statues that were wronged in the past. Also, there's no excuse for any Civil War statues to be on.
Yes.
Like monuments, sure, you can have monuments, but you don't need glorifying statues of
when,
people.
When we're done revolutionizing the United States, we need to go take down every statue of Margaret Thatcher. And also get rid of that fucking statue of Cecil Rhodes at the University of whatever. I guess it's in Johannesburg. Fuck off.
No, I just hate the bastard.
It's not German.
Johannes?
It's Dutch, first of all.
Fuck the Dutch.
Okay? The Boers are barely even Dutch anymore.
My point is, we need to be tearing down. It's a revolution. Yeah. The best way you
I would like to
signal that it is a revolution is you're no longer just protesting in the streets, you are tearing down the statues of your old oppressors.
Yeah.
That triggers a revolution. That triggers truly revolution. We're doing it.
That's a good point. Are there any good statues here in Fairbanks we can tear down?
I mean, there's Seward's somewhere. I don't think it's in Fairbanks, though. Most of the ones in Fairbanks are non-offensive.
Anodyne. I don't really have anything against Seward, to be honest. He's an asshole, but
50-50 me on that one.
No more than anyone else during his time.
Speaking of, so just real quick, as a history major, I do want to say that I fully endorse the concept of tearing down shitty old statues. We still remember the Holocaust and Hitler pretty fucking well, and there's no statues of that motherfucker anywhere in Germany. There's literally no historical argument
may
that
not
you
be
need statues.
Strictly true, but there's definitely no public statues.
No public statues. Right. We can remember our history and people and actors of it without statues of them in parks. Those are not necessary for a remembrance and memory of history.
Now here's the real question. Should we dynamite Stone Mountain?
Stone Mountain? We're not running.
The Confederate Mount Rushmore?
There's a Confederate Mount Rushmore?
Oh, yes.
Oh boy, have I missed something.
Yep, it is a huge granite cliff that has pictures of
How have I never heard of this?
I don't know, Quinn. Stone Mountain's kind of famous, actually.
Is it? Because I have literally never heard of it.
Yeah, the real difference between...
in the comments, if you've heard of Stone Mountain, let us know. If you've never heard of Stone Mountain, be sure to call fucking Riley an idiot.
Okay. Well, the real difference between Stone Mountain and Mount Rushmore, in my opinion, is that the only people who have claim to that land ancestrally have been dead for 200 years. Whereas Mount Rushmore is still on unceded Blackfoot territory.
Yeah, that one's a complicated one. Stone Mountain, I say, let's dynamite the fuck out of it. Real easy question, no questions asked. My problem with fucking Mount Rushmore is dynamiting those faces off of it. Is that, would that be worse?
Would it be worse?
Would it be more defacement?
Yeah.
Are they at the point where they... I don't know, because I don't know anything to ask about this who are...
I think opinions among the Blackfoot are next. Then there's also the Crazy Horse statue, which is similarly mixed opinions.
Yeah.
Because it's basically just Mount Rushmore, but with an Indian dude instead of white dudes.
Yeah.
Which is better, I guess? Is it? But still defacement of a sacred mountain,
Yeah, that's the problem. Defacement of sacred... See, here's the problem. And this is my understanding of Native culture in these terminology. And this is from, again, years of anthropology, history, or work at college, and books by... about these concepts is the problem is their memory of a culture is heavily tied to their land. The memories of as a people, their very concept of a people they are is heavily tied to the land masses. It's something that white people can't understand really all that well. It's something that's kind of pretty alien to us as a concept of literally an idea is tied to a specific landmark that you take someone to tell them the story of it, and that's how you get across a concept or an ideology.
It's because we've had a proprietarian of landscapes for so long.
Whereas the native landscapes are just themselves, and they teach the memory and they hold them in people, and that's why defacement of them is fundamentally one of the worst things to do. And there's some people that could potentially argue that the defacement of natural landmarks on native territory are a form of genocide against their culture, or at least an element of the genocide against their culture.
Also, if mortal sins were a thing in native religions, it would be a mortal sin.
If those were things, it would definitely be that. It would be that level of sin to deface the landscape in such a way that we have done.
For you Catholics out there, it would be like if someone cursed God.
Now, to be clear, this is not to say that the Native people did not alter their landscapes. Let's shy away from the image of them as being purely hunter-gatherers who never altered the landscape in any way, shape, or form. They cultivated the fucking land. And I'm really getting tired of people trying to claim that, fuck you, Stefan Mullen. Fuck your face.
You know where he gets that from, right?
All the way up. Fucking garden hose.
You know where he gets that from, right?
Where?
I'm fucking Rand.
Fuck I. Did she talk about that shit?
Oh, yeah. Her whole thing with America was, oh, well, it was perfectly justified to kill all the natives because it's not like they were doing anything with the land.
Damn it, that is just the I mean, that's the basic fucking concept of the city on a hill people, too. The Christians that showed up. The whole concept was, well, they don't have fences on it. They're not cultivating it the way we do with agriculture. Fun fact about the Australian Aborigines, they were cultivating the land with actual, yam farms.
Yeah.
The first people to visit were like, oh man, that fields, as far as I can see, are just yams growing.
Yeah.
Or alternatively, as was practiced in Australia and America, controlled burns of forests to make sure there was grassland behind, or to refresh the woods so there would be more wildlife for them to live off of. Yeah. They very much cultivated the land. The heavily managed land. It was just different than how Europeans did it. And here's the thing that
more suited to the climates and biomes of fucking
more suited to the needs of the people that lived there. The reason they never developed more bullshit the way the Europeans did, or they didn't develop their civilization in the same way, is because
it would have been unsustainable for them.
Or they didn't need to. There was they were if you have spent the last 40,000 years figuring out the best way to live off of the environment that you are in, and that has worked for thousands of years, why would you not keep doing that? If you work 5 hours a day for food, and that's it, all day, why would you not keep doing that? There's no reason to try to develop the new concepts. Don't get me wrong, it's not like they rejected new people who grew up in the tribe and said, what if we tried something different? That's obviously a thing that happened all the time, and they probably refined it, but the problem is, after 40,000 years of living in the same place, you learn a thing or two about it, and you've tried every idea out there, and you've found the ones that work the best, and you live off of those. It is not, they were savage and undeveloped. It is they had developed perfectly to suit their
equally developed, but along a different tech tree.
Yeah, because they didn't need to go along any other tech trees to develop something.
I told you I needed better.
You have 3 different things to do right now, and you are still fiddling with my chair.
Silence.
My point is, Stefan Molyneux is a dumbass piece of shit, and every white supremacist...
Really? Oh, that's what the topic originally was.
Yes.
White supremacy and white involvement in BLM.
Yes. We've pulled it back.
Yeah.
We pulled it back because that's part of the argument for why it was okay to enslave black people.
Yes, I know, God.
European things. And that's another reason why it was justified to have them as slaves in America for so long, and why it was justified in so many ways. So we are doing a favor to them and civilizing, because, clearly their civilization needed our help because they didn't develop it the way we did. So bringing them over here and teaching them how Europeans
we did them a favor.
Which is a heavy thread that's gone through white supremacists and the very fabric of this country, including the creation of the police force, by the way. Police were invented heavily in the South as literally the slave patrols, and to maintain order between control of the black population down there.
Yeah.
That thread all comes back. History all builds into itself.
Yeah, police in the United States have always been much more about social control rather than defense.
Yeah. That's pretty much, that's all state. That's all states.
Yes. But, in Europe, during, the Middle Ages, there was a community watch.
Yeah.
But they weren't enforcers of the law.
Right, that's fair.
They weren't involved with community, with social control. They were involved with community defense. And, we imported that idea of, the watch as community defense.
That did come over into the colonies in the first place.
Yes.
Original.
But then we focused that, organization on social control because of the various needs. Needs, quote unquote.
Needs by the hierarchy to socially control the people that were across the fucking ocean, because they were coming up with their own ideas of how to do things. Have that.
And it's not just that. The Puritans enforced strong social control within their community, not necessarily with police, but their police became part of that apparatus later on.
Later on, yes. To be fair, the Puritans and the other religious folk that came across the ocean to found their cities on a hill, they had their technique for dealing with dissent and social issues like that was more often than not to just break off and form another town.
True.
It's like, I'm trying to remember the term that's called. There's a specific term for it. Why there's so fuck all many towns throughout New England and so many tiny little plots. It's because every time someone came up with a new idea or something that went against the social order of this town, of their particular religious town, they
Fuck
just
it, I'll make my own town with blackjack and hookers.
Right. They just had all this empty land, and they were like, I'm
well,
just going to go make my own.
Empty.
At that point, they had empty.
Yeah.
At that point, disease had run its course, and the vague resistances were being massacred enough. All of that.
The problem with that is eventually you run out of other people's land.
The problem with capitalism is eventually you run out of other people's land.
Yeah.
To exploit. Oh, fuck. So, in their defense, and that's the reason why New England had such a massively different culture around social control than the South did. Whereas the South
South was very much...
The South was founded on the concept of profit.
Yeah.
They wanted to profit off of the land, and for that you need heavy social control over everyone involved to make sure that they are all focused on the singular issue of profit, not enjoying
civil control,
not living. Your focus was not on living a good life in the South. Your focus was on making me fucking money. And anyone who tried to say, what if I didn't want to make you money and just wanted to live a good life on my farm, had to be controlled into not doing it.
Yeah, either coerced into making money for someone or driven into the mountains.
Yes, and that's real easy to do by just making it illegal to not work for somebody, or making it illegal to just farm on land that's not yours.
Yeah, and taxes also.
Taxes, rise of state power, the rise of state violence as police, as enforcers of property rights, which stop people from being able to farm on land that's not theirs, despite the fact that it wasn't anybody's.
Yeah.
A minute ago. Oftentimes, literally, the powers that be would walk into a plot of land that was being farmed by someone who wandered into the woods and said, yeah, this land belongs to me. And the farmer would go, I've been here 10 years. Yeah, this land is mine. You are on my land. What is this, medieval England? Yes, I own this. The king owns this land and he gave it to me.
Okay, but the thing is, even in medieval England, that shit wouldn't have flown.
It's true.
Possession was a big thing.
To be fair, medieval had all of its land was beat up a long time ago. Yeah,
that's true, yeah.
That's the problem with Europe being such a tiny little continent.
Every single parcel of land had been accounted for 20 times over a millennium ago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is not to say there were not wild places. There were plenty of wild places that people could wander off into and escape from society. But it was well known that each plot of land is owned by somebody. This is the king's land, if it's not any specific person's, which is a major shift from, if we want to talk major social changes from fucking monarchy states to actual nation states, that was a major shift. That the government could own land, not an individual.
Yeah, that's true.
That's part of what cements the concept of needing police in the modern incarnation of the form we're talking about. Is you end up with suddenly, you go from individuals can own land and it's their responsibility to defend that land for claimants, to the government itself can own land and we need a governmental force to maintain the ownership of it. And that's where you get police. One of the places. There's so many places.
Yes.
But none of them are good. None of them came out of the concept of we need to defend our community from crime.
But it wasn't. We defend our community from other communities.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Even back in then,
yeah.
The vague community watches weren't about the concept of defending.
Yeah, I think the whole notion of police as defense from crime didn't come about until the first Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, when suddenly crime was a concept that the people cared about.
Yeah,
because it suddenly affected their profits.
Yeah.
Before that, crime was very much a small petty issue.
Yeah, if it didn't involve an offense against the state, nobody really cared. Yeah. Well, people cared, but it was mostly sorted out on
it was mostly sorted out on a small basis.
Yeah.
Person on the level that it happened.
The exception of
England. Just saying, private property.
Yes, obviously.
Part of the problem we're trying to abolish the police right now is who's going to protect every property?
Mercenaries.
That's the concern.
Yeah.
That is the ANCAP dream.
Yes, I know.
And that is the problem. That is another one of those things that's popping out of Pandora's box in Minneapolis soon. Is who is going to defend my private property rights? Who does Target call when someone...
Blackwater.
Yeah, which is just so much infinitely worse.
Yeah.
The way you try to forestall that is you have a community watch program against theft, but you can't take them to a civilian group. someone stole from the target, let's convene the community council to say what should happen. Oh, what's the solution there? Try to find the person who stole the stuff, which no, never gonna do that. Or like then they choose to hire Blackwater to hunt them down or defend a target, which would be a little bit more severe in oversight. But I mean, honestly, alternatively, to solve the problem of people steal from targets.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things that when we talk about defunding the police, we're saying, hey, take those billions of dollars in some cases.
Oh god, yeah, no.
And give them and put them into like community programs to assist people to live in general.
In terms of the United States total budget spent on police, federally, state, and local, if you spent even just a small portion of that on like housing the homeless and feeding the hungry and that kind of shit,
yeah,
you would see such a massive drop in quote unquote crime. Stuff like crimes of poverty, like indigence and survival theft.
Yeah, and once you take care of those, so I was reading something interesting, a story, and it was an idea of like an alternative to cops as to, well, someone's walking through your neighborhood with a flashlight shining into windows, and like instead of calling down the cops to show up, you would just call your neighbors and go out there and talk to him, and that's a cool concept, and I love that idea, and it's de-escalated, get that person taken care of, find out why he's trying to rob cars, and the problem is that concept only works in where that person knows that the cops aren't going to be called by the people to talk to. Yeah. The majority of violence, the majority of the concept of violent action from this person, from being confronted from trying to rob you, is because they are trying to avoid the cops. Yeah. They're trying to avoid the state punishment for thinking or for even planning to rob someone. Whereas if you eliminate for that to work, you have that cultural shift that needs to take place in everybody's mind that being caught trying to commit a crime does not necessitate the cops being called, and thus the chance of murder and
extrajudicial murder,
extrajudicial murder and punishment of any kind. There's no longer a risk. If you get caught trying to steal,
let me be clear: the cops showing up at all is a punishment.
Yes,
like cops' presence is punitive, regardless of whether or not you've been tried.
Yeah, the concept.
Make no mistake: the United States punishes innocent people all the time.
All the time.
Like, literally, every second of every day.
You need to culturally shift people's minds that the consequences for being caught committing a crime is no longer punishment, but rather care. If they catch you committing a crime, someone who's trained to try to deal with this and asks, why? What do you need? Is there something? What do you need from society that is causing you to commit this crime? Why are you trying to steal from cars
what are the causes of crime?
Poverty.
Survival?
Yeah, and capitalistic bred greed.
Well, yeah, survival, greed, and, well, not mental illness, but, like...
For instability?
Well,
the problem is mental illness is one of the causes of crime in our society as we see it.
But I mean, not mental illness in the sense of, like...
It's bad connotations with that, but the problem is it is also true to criminalize mental illness in this society, but it does not... what I mean is, like... being mentally ill is a crime.
Someone who has kleptomania, for instance, like, kleptomania itself is a mental illness.
Yeah.
But the reasons that they are kleptomaniac arise from deeper causes, which generally do not come down to, like, the pure medicalist aspects of...
Right.
There's just something broken with their brain. No, usually it's like they were abused as a child.
Mental causes.
Or,
to these issues. They are not natural, just their brain was broken. No, things lead to people having these kinds of...
Even people who do really fucking shitty things for apparently no reason. It's because something fucked them up, and something gave them the opportunity. And if you can take away the opportunity, and you can address the thing that's fucking them up, then it's not an issue.
Yeah, that's the thing. You attack the root causes of the crime in the first place, from the beginning, with a massive focus or drive on,
sure, sometimes all you can do is remove the opportunity. Like, Jeffrey fucking Dahmer. Worst case scenario. There's basically no way to fix the thing that fucked him up. But you can prevent him from being able to do anything. And that's, in my opinion, literally the only legitimate reason for incarceration.
Yeah.
And that's simply because they are a danger to themselves and people around them. It should not be...
And again, the goal in that is not the punishment for the actions.
Yeah.
But literally just for the protection of themselves.
It should not be to make them regret their actions or anything like that. It just should be like putting gloves on a fucking kitten that can't control its claws.
No, it's an analogy.
It's a bad analogy, I know, but like...
It's one that works vaguely. I mean, yeah. The majority of those concepts, like survivability and poverty, you take care of 90% of crime with getting rid of those. And then the other problem, and then let's keep in mind, like, a lot of people are going to yell, but so many people steal to pay for drugs, and it's like, yeah, you deal with drugs.
Yeah. Why do people do drugs?
Yeah, why do people do drugs? And if only there was some other way to help people who are on drugs than putting them in prison.
Hey, you know what the most effective treatment for heroin addiction is? Heroin.
It's not wrong.
Most people who become addicted to heroin and other opiates, as long as their life improves, they eventually go off by themselves.
Yep. The basic, like, life and living standards solves the issues in our society and crime. And then there's the secondary issue of, like, we did mention 30, mental illness, which, you solve by tackling it from the beginning of someone's life, community care for people, mental health, mental care, all of that. That's a health issue. The drug stick is a health issue, not a punitive, not a punitive, like needing cops to solve issue. The poverty, again, you don't solve poverty by having more cops, because that's just taking more money away from the community. You invest that money in the community to help try to end poverty. The third region, the second one, greed. That one, let us all take this moment and remember that overwhelming amounts of greed is not the natural human state of being.
Yeah, it's a social illness.
It is a social illness that has been put and bred into us since the Industrial Revolution. The concept of all human beings being greedy was not a thing.
Not even necessarily greedy, but, like, relentlessly acquisitive.
Yes. Constantly needing to acquire more is something that has been specifically programmed into us since birth in our capitalist society, because that's how it needs us to function.
Yeah, it's
to always want more. So we are always trying to get more, and thus we are working harder for the system in general, and also purchasing more in the system to keep this wheel spinning in it. That's not a natural phenomenon for humanity, and for reference of that, I'm going to cite the majority of human history and the history of everyone that was not participant in the Industrial Revolution.
If nothing else, nearly every religion on Earth unanimously agrees relentless acquisitiveness is bad.
Yeah, almost every single one.
Like, I cannot think of a counterexample, except for maybe Scientology, but even then, like, they say it even though they don't practice it.
Yeah. Like, not all religions practice it well. The concept of
Catholic Church.
What was that, one of those 7 deadly sins? I don't know what you're talking about. What are those? God.
Yep, lots of invisible gold.
And you solve the greed problem of people stealing because they want to be rich. First off, that's actually not a crime that gets persecuted by the cops a whole lot anyway.
Yeah,
because
I was
that's typically wage theft and, like, capital
doing the crime. Sometimes a Jewish dude gets fucking slammed with 1,000,000 years in prisons for it.
Yeah. But overall...
Look, I'm not saying Bernie Madoff didn't deserve what he got. I'm just saying it's suspicious how many white-collar criminals who get tried are Jewish.
Jesus Christ.
What?
The idea that, humans are naturally... Sorry, this concept still drives me insane. The idea that crime will always exist, people will always want to steal your big screen TV because they don't have a big screen. It's just like, what? Most people don't want a big screen TV. And if you make big screen TVs more readily available to the population, they don't need to steal a big screen TV. They can just get one. Like, it's never been. It's just, people are not naturally greedy in the sense of everyone wants to be a billionaire, because everyone doesn't want it. We're bred to believe that everyone wants to be a billionaire.
Well,
we're told that we all need to be billionaires, but not everyone wants to.
But what people want is not to be a billionaire. What people want is to have the freedom that billionaires have. Or at least the freedom that people perceive them as having.
Yeah.
Because, frankly, that much wealth is kind of a burden, all of it. So it restricts your choices. But
that much wealth with the public eye that it brings, all the restricted understand.
There is, in fact, a sweet spot of wealth.
Yes. Yes, there is. In multiple ways.
Yeah, where you can do just about it. There is a point at which you can do just about anything you want to, but not be so wealthy that, like, it fucking rules your life.
Nice little sweet spot. The problem is there's a tipping point real close to that sweet spot.
Yeah, where you go from...
Real easy to fall over the edge of. Like, you start up a business, the ideal of having economic freedom, and you get to that sweet spot, and
but by that time the business has a mind of its own.
And it grows, and then you tip over that tip real quick and easy.
Yeah.
You know what helps prevent that?
What?
Cooperatively owned businesses.
Oh, yes, true.
It's hard for the business to have a mind of its own when everyone working in it all has a say in what that business should do. Hello, dragons. Mondragon, that's it.
Yeah, Mondragon's not a perfect example, but it's pretty good.
It's not perfect, but it's still one of the best examples to be able to point to people.
Also, Winn-Dixie. Not Winn-Dixie, Winco.
Winco, there you go.
Sorry, Winn-Dixie is a book.
Yes.
Not a...
Isn't that one about a dog?
Yes, it's a very very emotionally affecting story.
Are there any books about dogs that are not emotionally affecting stories?
Think of?
No, there's not. Because every dog story is emotionally affecting because dogs are literally the most emotional thing that humans can basically have and exist within. Well, we're at about an hour-ish now. We should wrap this up. We're ending on sad dog stories.
Yes, I think that the original question was, how involved should white people be in BLM? And that answer is...
There's two answers to this question, and it depends on which side of this line you fall.
The first is yes, but let the black people do the talking. And also, who cares? BLM is an incomplete part of the entire picture of what we're aiming for here.
Yeah, it just happens to be the most visible entrance into it.
Yeah.
There's too big of, in my opinion, there's too big of a damn movement going on to allow ourselves as the actors of the movement to be able to be curtailed by a single individual.
Yeah, like I know that anytime someone says id poll, like big, huge red flags go up. But seriously, like liberal id poll is a problem because that's how you fracture movements. And I don't mean that in the sense of, oh, well, that means that we should focus exclusively on class solidarity. No, I mean, we shouldn't let any one particular aspect take over.
Right.
Because
the movement's too big and too important, and we need unity. And for that unity, we need a in my opinion, as the anarchist, a non-hierarchical unity system is so important because there's too much going on for everyone to be able to just stop and say, well, this person says we shouldn't do this, so we're not going to do this, even if everyone else thinks it needs to be done. Because no one person has all the answers perfect.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be able to find all the answers by excluding ideas or pushing other people out of them, saying, no, you can't do this, and I have ultimate authority. Basically, ultimate authority is bad. Hierarchies are bad. Fuck cops.
You're very much fuck cops.
Like and subscribe.
Good cops don't stay cops.
Hit the little bell button if you want to get notifications, because YouTube is shit and it doesn't want people to see things if they don't hit the bell button. And in the comments, put your favorite sad dog story.
Wow.